Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in East London. You can find me online on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab, you will find our group right there. I put quick links to everything I mentioned down below, but if you would like to see the full show notes, which have just a little bit more detail, you can find a link to that in the box below as well. As always, I like to kick off the show with a big thank you. If you are a new viewer, thank you for giving this podcast a shot. I really hope you enjoy it. If you are one of my lovely returning viewers, thank you. You come back every episode and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend with me. Today's tea, I've actually literally just poured it, so it's very, very warm. I'll show you the mug in a minute. But I'm actually drinking today Tregothnan Tea. I have had Tregothnan on the podcast before. I had lemon verbena, which was a gift from one of Rich's cousins, and was so delicious I had to get some more when we were away on our sadly quite rainy holiday. It was a lot cooler and wetter than we had hoped it would be after the epic heat wave that England had had, and which you may be able to tell by the light we are having again. So unfortunately, you know, we just got a bit unlucky with the weather. But I got lucky with tea. This is Nettle tea. I actually picked this up from the village shop as we were leaving on our last day. I ran in to the little local shop in Rich's village to pick up some pasties for the journey, and I realised I hadn't bought any Tregothnan tea, and I had intended to, and this was the only one they had. But nettle is one of my favourite flavours. I really love nettle tea, and this is absolutely delicious. I really enjoy this one. I am hoping to order do a little bit of a Tregothnan order and get a bigger box of this, and I really do want to try the Manuka honey one as well because it looks just absolutely delicious. And I do love teas that have a really strong kind of local heritage or even like a UK heritage. So this one is apparently grown in England, which is great. We have an abundance of stinging nettles, so absolutely, why not put them to good use? And they have been going for 2005, I think, with Tregothnan, so I recommend. This is my mug. I'm not actually going to take a sip because, as I said, it's absolutely boiling. But yeah, this is a mug that I was given when I left a job I had been doing for a very long time in Richmond, and this was one of my leaving gifts. They spoiled me rotten, and every time I use this mug, I think of those people who I still see quite regularly, but it's just a nice little reminder. Before we dive into the podcast proper, I'm just going to do a little health update. For those of you who missed the last episode, I, in a nutshell, will be having a cyst removed at some point before the end of the year. If you want to know full details or a little bit more background, you can go and see the last episode. I was talking about that in Knit and Natter. And the reason I shared it was because firstly, you don't really hear about this kind of stuff too often, these kind of general women's health issues that my consultant assures me is quite common. It's nothing really to worry about, but we don't really hear about them, and I wouldn't really have known what symptoms to look out for, apart from an irregular period being a bit of a red flag and something you should check out. So that's part of the reason I shared it. And I also shared it because I wanted to encourage people to understand what their normal is. Not just women, not just in women's health area, but your normal. You know, what are your general moods like? What is your general health like? Because if you understand that, then when something starts to go a little bit irregular or awry, you pick that up a lot quicker. And I think that is a really, really important thing, and it's something I'm trying to be better at doing, by kind of taking a much closer look at how I feel day to day rather than just taking it for granted. But I wanted to say a massive thank you. That was a tangent that I didn't mean to go on to. I wanted to say a massive thank you because I received so many messages, so many comments just to say thank you for sharing, to wish me well, to assure me that they'd had something similar done and it was all going to be fine. And I just want to say thank you for that, because I'm just somebody who makes videos and puts them on YouTube, and you don't have to express concern for me or care, and the fact that you did was just so lovely, and I just was really warmed by that, and I wanted to say a really big thank you. Just to update you, since the last episode, a couple of days after I got back from Cornwall, I went and had a pre-op assessment. I will get the all clear in the next 2 weeks for that, and then I should hear about an operation date, which we're hopefully going to get in October. So I should be, you know, all clear, ready to enjoy Christmas and have a lovely time. And obviously I will keep you posted, so you'll know that when the podcast is going to disappear for a week or so. But thank you. I just wanted to make it very clear that I really appreciated people getting in touch with me, and it was a little overwhelming, but in the best possible way, and thank you. But now let's move on to Whipped Up. I have some foes this week, but in an unprecedented move, one of them is not here. If you were following my stories on Instagram, you may have noticed I shared a story from Rich's brother, who was very, very happy to receive a pair of socks. Because yes, the Regia Perfect that I was knitting for Rich as a test pair before doing his proper birthday pair, I ran out of yarn. I could have finished them, and indeed I did finish one to check the size. He tried it on and was like, it could do with being a little bit longer. And even blocking wouldn't have quite, it was just a little bit on the too tight side. But his brother has ever so slightly smaller feet, and they fit him perfectly. So I gave them to his brother, who was very, very happy to receive them, and I will be making Rich his own pair soon. I was going to cast them on this weekend. However, I decided to take the precaution of getting a contrast yarn for cuffs, heels and toes, so that I don't run out of the Mallard West Yorkshire spinners this time. So that is the precaution I'm taking. I've ordered it from Wild and Woolly, so hopefully that will be arriving in the next couple of days. My second foe is also a pair of socks, because I'm obsessed now. I cannot get enough of them. I really enjoy, the size is great. I really enjoy working on them on the tube, on my lunch break, any commuting, any social knitting, they're just perfect. The only annoyance I have is that I only have one 2.5mm fixed circular, which is my preferred sock knitting size at the moment. I may go down at some point, but for now that works for me. I've only got one, and heels and picking up the gusset I still have to think about, so that's not good social knitting. So it'd be really good to have a second needle, so I could have, you know, a reserve sock, so that if I know I'm coming up to a heel, I can just put it away and I can just work on a leg or a foot if I'm not in a situation where it's appropriate to, you know, disengage from everyone around you while you figure things out. Unfortunately, when I did my Wild and Woolly order for the contrast yarn, they didn't have 2.5s in stock, so I'm just going to keep an eye on that and pop down when I can, because I just think it would be handy, and who doesn't need more needles? But enough blather. You came here to see foes, and this is one. This is Regia Tweed. It doesn't have a name, unfortunately, this colour, which is such a shame because it's beautiful. It just has a number, and that number is 07497. Just had to check that. It really is 07497, which is the least memorable name in the world, but I guess it does the job. This was actually the yarn I took with me to Cornwall because I knew I was going to finish the red Perfect socks. And I took this and I cast on in the car on the way back from a walk. There were quite a few of us in the car, and I was sat in the middle with Rich on one side of me and Rich's brother's girlfriend on the other side. So I've cast on my sock, and I managed to get most of the cuff done before we got home. And I just steamed through it, and I don't know that this was the first one, but let's pretend. I turned the heel and picked up and knit the gusset, decreases, the foot, and had all that done by the time we got home. So this was very much kind of car journey knitting. And when we got home, I did the toe and it was finished. So I did all of this kind of section in a day, which was pretty good going. Just goes to show what you can do when you actually have time to knit. The second one I worked on, and it's been kind of my commute social knitting. And I was actually working on this second one at Katie's baby shower yesterday, which she very kindly invited me to, and I had a lovely time. Excellent food, Katie, very good. And I was on the foot, and I was quite close to the toe, but I thought there's no way that I'll get it finished. And of course I did. I managed to get all the toe decreases done and got it right up to the Kitchener point and was tucking it away when Amy said, have you finished? You finished that already? And I said, yeah, I just can't Kitchener it because I didn't think to pick up my little pot of needles. I've got the clover, little like green screw top thingamy. But Amy, being the fabulous Girl Scout that she is, did have a needle, Kitchenered my toe, and wove in all my ends. So they're completely finished, and a lot of that is thanks to Amy. So thank you, Amy. And just before I put these away, these are my third socks for me. So I've knit 4 in total, one of which now belongs to Rich's brother, and 3 for me. And these are the best fitting. I'm so happy with the fit on these. This is now my sock recipe. Just having my first sip of tea. It's just so delicious. I actually really enjoy Nettle. I really like, I've got a recipe somewhere for a nettle and cardamom cake. I feel like cardamom is doing most of the heavy lifting in that cake, but it is delicious, and I do like nettle soup, so I am a fan. Now that I'm so comfortable with socks, I think it's time that I started breaking into some of my fancier yarn. I love this commercial yarn. It's fantastic to practice on because it's not super expensive. I really love the stripes in this, particularly because they're not very defined. They're kind of almost fadey stripes, which I really liked. But it just makes learning to knit socks so much more cost effective, and you don't worry so much about the fit. But I have been saving my fancier yarn. I have most definitely been doing that. So I think my next cast on for me has got to be this. I think I bought this last year as a birthday present to myself, and it's from Kate Celine. And I have a lot of her mini skeins that I bought to work on my Cozy Memories blanket, which are now, the ends of which are going into my massive granny stripe blanket. I'd never bought a full skein until I saw this beautiful sock set. I mean, she is so talented, Kate Celine. I haven't bought from her recently. I know I did have to wait quite a while for this because I believe at the time she was doing dyed to order, and it was absolutely worth the wait. I think it was about 2 months that I waited for this, but I was really happy to wait because I had no immediate plans for it. I knew I was going to have to wait a while. She was very clear about that. And look, when it came, look how beautiful that is. And now I feel up to the task of making this. So I think I'm going to do fraternal contrasting heels and toes. So I think on one I might do a red cuff, a blue heel, a red toe, and then on the other one do a blue cuff, a red heel and a blue toe, so that they match but they're a bit different. And yeah, I'm just so excited to dive into this because when I bought this, I bought it for myself with the promise that one day this would make a beautiful pair of socks, and I'm fulfilling that promise to myself, and it's amazing. I do recommend Kate Celine. I mean, just look at the packaging of this, just popping it back in, but it came in this little box that when I opened it, there was my beautiful skein, there was my minis, there were a couple of stitch markers included. It's just such a beautiful thing to receive, and you know, her colour sense is amazing. It's so fun, it's just gorgeous. I think she has changed how she runs her shop now. I think she does have some ready to ship stuff, So all I would recommend, if you are buying from Kate Celine, please make sure to read the listing thoroughly so you know if you're getting ready to ship or dyed to order. Purely because I know that she does a lot of dyed to order, and she may still be doing that, because hand on heart, I haven't bought since I picked this up last year, but I do definitely see some more Kate Celine speckly socks in my future. But socks were not the only thing that I took to Cornwall with me. They were fantastic, as I say, for in the car. They were great for socialising, they were great for sitting in the pub at the end of a long walk, so they were great. However, that was not all I took. Now, for those of you who have been watching for a little while, you may remember that at the beginning of this year, I think I did the Make 9 challenge, which I think I did last year too, and I don't know why I do this, because the moment I set things in stone like that, I don't want to do them. And so far this year, I have cast on I've had 2 sweaters on the go. I only cast one of them on this year. And I have, off the top of my head, 3 more sweater quantities. So I've got plenty in stash to build a great handmade garment wardrobe. But unfortunately I haven't finished any garments this year for a variety of reasons, which I will come to. But I decided to take my Pavement with me. I was actually working on this when I was in Cornwall for Christmas, so it felt appropriate. This, as always, is in my beautiful Eldenwood craft bag. I love these bags. They are so beautiful, so well made. And for those of you, I mean, look at that. Isn't that terrible? I just kind of rolled it up and then it got squished in my handbag. So sorry if it looks a bit of a lump and mess. So yes, I've been doing some work on my Pavement, which is this sweater here. Is the Pavement by Vera Valimaki. It is knit out of stranded Dyeworks in the Oasis base in the Industrial Kingfisher colourway, and I have been alternating skeins. And the last time you saw this, I had been working on the body. It's a straight bodied sweater, there's no waist shaping, and I had been going round and round on this body for what felt like months. People talk about Sleeve Island, I was on Body Island. It was just taking forever. And then when I finally got to the bottom, and I knew I had to do some short row shaping for the kind of split hem. I say split hem, and I don't even know if that's the correct term, but it has one of those hems so that the back and the front kind of curve, which means on the hip you get this kind of scoop. So it does split, which is why I called it a split hem. And I put it down, thinking I will do that one evening when I have time to sit and read the instructions and think about what I'm doing. That evening sadly never came. It was one of those things where when you pack something away intending to get it out, it's out of sight, out of mind. And I started working on other things. And I know that I want to have a garment ready to wear before the end of the year, so I thought I would fish this out. And I spent a few lovely evenings watching films and hanging out and working on the bottom, which you can see I have bound off. This is not connected to any yarn, this is a completed body. And all I have to do is cast on the sleeves and then it'll be finished and I can wear it. Now, I do have a few issues with this, which is entirely my naivety as a garment knitter and nothing to do with the pattern. And the first thing that I have a bit of a way to go on is alternating skeins. You may be able to see in the back, there is very much a seam where I alternated skeins. I think I got better at it towards the bottom, but I still found it very tricky to get the tension right on that. And I think in future, I'm probably going to work more with solids or more semi-solids that I don't necessarily have to alternate. Purely because I found it slightly annoying and I'm not super happy with the seam at the back, but I did the best I could with my current ability level. However, I do love how it's turned out. There's no real pooling. It's got this beautiful, and there's my hair stuck in it again, sorry. You'll always have hair stuck in my garments, this is how it is. But it has this beautiful kind of marled finish, which whenever I get out and I look at it, so I was born in the 80s, okay? And when I grew up, my mum's kind of hanging around the house kind of go-to outfit was like leggings and a Fruit of the Loom grey marl sweatshirt. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a pale grey sweatshirt with like darker grey marling. And because this has such a kind of marled, the more I say that word, the more wrong it sounds, but I hope you know what I mean. But it's kind of similar to this, only this is more blues and greens than greys. So I love that. And you know, the seam is in the back, so it's not going to bother me so much, and I'm sure that it will block out and look a bit better. But that is something that I either do need to work on some more, or I need to be aware of when choosing my yarns in the future. Second issue that I had was the short rows at the bottom. I don't have a huge amount of experience doing short rows. I've done them before. I now knit socks, so I do them quite regularly. However, I've never had to pick up the wraps. So my Colour Affection shawl that I've knit twice, which is also a Vera Valimaki, that had short rows in, but I didn't have to pick up the wraps. And it's this picking up that I had issues with because, and you won't be able to see this on camera, as I was knitting the juicy, lovely garter stitch border at the bottom here, I noticed as I was going round and round that in a couple of places where I picked up the wraps, I had left a little hole, which I now can't find, of course. Yes, so there is one which maybe you can see if I just put my finger there, just on the kind of side seam, which I've decided to just put a little stitch into because I did get halfway through the garter stitch border and think I'm going to rip it all out and do it again. That's a bit ridiculous for one little hole, and it doesn't bother me so much. I'm just going to put a little stitch in. But I do need to work on my short rows. I have a Craftsy class by Carol Feller, I believe, so I'm going to watch that. And next time I'm going to have a go at doing German short rows, which a friend recommended to me as potentially having a better finish. But yeah, so those were the two kind of issues I've had with this knit so far. But I love it. I tried it on. It's going to look really nice with leggings and jeans. I love the colour. I was going to cast on the sleeve last night and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to end up poking myself in the face with the needles because I'll be going, look at my lovely sleeve, and a needle will ping and it will hit me. So I'm hopefully going to do that tonight because I actually think that would make quite nice work knitting, just going round and round on a sleeve. So yeah, I'm hopefully getting back into garment knitting. I haven't touched my Kerrytown pullover in about as long since I touched this because it was very complex, lots of charts, and I just felt like it was the kind of project where I needed like to sit down and do a big amount of work on it. So I need to kind of get my head around that a bit more because otherwise I'm never going to have time. If I only work on it when I've got like stretches of day where I can do a whole day working on it, it's never going to get done. So I need to think about some kind of hacks to get around that and make it a bit easier for myself. But yeah, I'm hoping there'll be more garments. All my current upcoming plans are garments, hats and socks because, you know, I came back from Cornwall and it was chilly and grey there and here. So I was ready for autumn. I had a pumpkin spice latte yesterday. I never drink coffee. Pumpkin spice is the only one that I can kind of tolerate, and I usually have one or two a year. So I've had my first coffee of the year, potentially my only coffee of the year. I was ready for autumn, and then this happened, and it's a beautiful blazing day, and yeah. Guess it's not autumn yet, guys. I'm very happy with this and I'm looking forward to having it finished, and I'm going to try and think of the sleeves as just one big sock because socks go really, really quickly. So I'm hoping that if I tell myself it's just like a sock, I'll have it done in plenty of time. And, you know, if I'm still working on it when I have to take some time off for my operation, this is going to be perfect. Perfect just to sit and watch RuPaul and Harry Potter and period dramas while I work on this and recuperate. It's going to be perfect. Now, that is all that I have been working on, but I do have some other bits and pieces to share with you before we go on to knit and natter. It will come as no surprise to anyone to know that one of the first things I have to share is the latest pom-pom. I actually let my subscription lapse, not because I have fallen out of love with pom-pom or anything like that, just because unfortunately the renewal fell just before my holiday. I was paying for like dentist appointments and it just wasn't in the budget. And I missed out on getting this, but I thought I'll just pick it up and then I'll renew my subscription in September. Yeah, and then they released this, which is seriously one of the most glorious issues they have ever brought out. Now, full disclosure, this only arrived yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to read it. I'm hoping to have a bath either later today or later in the week to have a really good read, because the content is always fabulous. But I have been flicking through it, and the patterns and the illustrations, honestly, everyone at Pom Pom, amazing work. There is quite a lot in here that I would love to make. Obviously, the front cover jumper is beautiful, and now that I've done some colour work, I don't look at that and think that that is impossible. I don't think it's for me right now, but I definitely think that one day I could do that. And there are quite a few in here that I love. I think the hat and the matching gloves are beautiful. I'm tempted to do that and put it in my donation box, just because I want to knit the pattern. I just think it's beautiful. And there's some beautifully chic, stunning jumpers in here. The Artemis, which I don't know if you can see because it's got quite a dark background, but it's also on the back as well, with this kind of contrasting low cut back and a nice loose body. It's just beautiful. So I'm almost tempted to save this for like my Friday night. On Friday nights I try to kind of have a bit of an indulgent time. I try to have a bath with either a cup of tea or a glass of red wine, knowing that when I get out there's going to be a lovely dinner and just, you know, chill time and a film. I'm tempted to save it for my Friday night bath because it just looks so beautiful. To everybody involved in this issue, Pom Pom is an incredible production anyway. I think that the work they do, the books they make, everything is beautiful. However, I think this is one of their best, like by an absolute mile. And I hope that everybody involved in this, the Pom Pom team, the writers, the designers, I hope that when you received this, you felt really, really proud, because I opened it up and just thought it was stunning. So well done to everyone involved. I have also received some goodies. Now, as I said, this weekend I went to Katie's baby shower and I got to spend some time with Katie and her family, and obviously my lovely friends Amy and Ellie were there, of the Stranded and the Skein Deer podcasts. Now, I have been very, very behind with podcasts lately, but I was recently trying to catch up with Stranded and I noticed how much spinning that Amy was doing. And I have never touched handspun before, and I said, as I'm seeing you this weekend, would you mind bringing some handspun so I can have a look at it and feel it? Just because I've never felt it before. And she actually gave me some, which is just so fantastic and beautifully kind of her. So I have these beauties to add to my stash. There's this one, which I think is gorgeous, and Rich has kind of gone, I really like that. So this might become a hat for Rich. I don't know what this is. Let me read this. Mystery Fibre, June 18, which is pretty cool. I think there's probably not quite enough here to do a whole hat, so I'd have to contrast it with some grey maybe. But yeah, I think all of these are going to become hats. Whether they, you know, get gifted or donated, I don't know yet, but I think they are all destined to become really beautiful hats. This one here, I think Amy said this was a Frankenskein, yes. And it's all kind of odds and ends that she's plied together and just made this beautiful, like, unicorny skein, which is just beautiful. I love it. I'm saying beautiful a lot, but I'm having a really nice day and everything is lovely. And then there's this. This is just beyond beautiful. It kind of reminds me of circuses, and not that I've ever really been to the circus, but you know what I mean. But it's so, so amazing to see, because they're all different colours, plied together I think is the term. You can see that she has spun this and then plied it, and it's just amazing. I cannot believe my friend handmade these, and they all feel a little bit different depending on like the twist. Like this one looks a tiny bit twistier than some of the parts in here, and I just think they're going to make 3 really lovely hats. As I say, these ones will probably be striped in with another colour. This one might make a hat just on its own, and I think whoever receives these is going to be very, very happy with them. And I am over the moon that Amy gave these to me and I get to finally knit with handspun, which feels like a really, really amazing thing to be able to do. So thank you, Amy, that was very kind of you. Next up, I have an incredibly generous gift from somebody who watched the podcast, who I met at Fibre East a few weeks ago. The lovely Paula heard my call for wanting to knit tube map socks, because I am from London. I adore this city. I have a great fondness for the tube. Usually I'm more fond of it when I'm not on it, but that's only because it's not always the most fun. But yes, Paula was an absolute angel and sent me some tube map yarn. Now this might look a little bit small, but I've got the other bits and pieces here. I believe she said she tried to knit her own socks out of them, and she, you know, kind of fell out of love with them, so did I want it. So I've got the other bits here, which would be really easy to knit all together. And look how bright it is! So you've got District Line, Met Line, Hammersmith and City, Docklands Light Railway is on there, which is great. Northern Line is that black stripe. I am so keen. I cannot wait to get these cast on. I think I'm going to cast these on for myself after I've done my Kate Celine socks. Or if I get that second pair of needles, I might just cast on both of them at once. Thank you, Paula. This was incredibly generous of you. I never thought I'd get hold of this yarn, to be honest, because it's so hard to get hold of, and I am just over the moon delighted. I went to my mum's, and bless her, she'd gone and picked it up from the post office for me, and I was just delighted. Thank you so much. The last little gift I have received was very, very special, because this is from a viewer who I have met twice. I didn't ask if I could share her name on the podcast, so I'm not going to, but you know who you are, and thank you so much. I received this beautiful package. It was here when I got home on Friday, and it was just such a lovely way to end a very good week. I will start with the beautiful project bag. It's got these happy little sheep on it, and I do love a sheep, because what knitter doesn't love a sheep? And it's drawstring, which I love, because I always worry about being a bit clumsy and catching yarn in zips. And I cannot believe she sent me a hat. Look at that! It is, I don't know what you would call this colour. It's like a mustard, but it's on that kind of greeny, mustardy end of the spectrum, which I pulled this on, and I'm not going to pull it on now because I have kind of straightened my hair, and we all know what will happen when I take it off. But I pulled it on, and Rich went, "Oh, you are right, you can wear those mustards." I went through a phase of trying to wear bright yellow, and Rich was just like, that really doesn't... I'd kind of pull something on and go and show him and go, "What do you think?" And he'd go, "Well, the yellow is too bright." And I can't wear bright yellows because I'm so pale, but this sort of mustardy colour, oh, I can wear this, and it makes me so happy. So thank you for that. It does fit. I keep going to put it on, and it would end badly. Just end up with my hair in a bird's nest. Thank you. That is just so kind of you. Thank you. And she also sent chocolate, but I'm not going to pretend. The chocolate and the Mawams, they're long gone. They were pudding on Friday night after dinner. But I've got some tea, which I'm always very, very happy to receive. Some delicious jasmine. I think these are jasmine? Yes, jasmine. And like a Lady Jane, which I am going to pop into my teapot later on and have as my kind of Sunday evening wind down treat while I edit. So thank you, I'm always over the moon to receive tea. And I've got some extras for my memory blankets. Now this person I did meet at EYF and she was kind enough to give me some minis then. So this is just a lovely little additional set to go in my blankets. Thank you so much for this. This is so kind of you. You know, nobody has to give me anything. And, you know, I've had, like I said, I had a really good week after kind of some stressful times. And it was just lovely to come home to this beautiful package that you put together with such care. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Now there is one more thing that I want to show you before I go into knit and natter. And the reason I want to show you this is because I spent last evening and this morning working on this. Rather than picking up sleeves and casting on a new sock, this is what I was doing. Now you may remember that last year Katie and Amy and I decided to do an advent calendar swap. Yarn advent calendars are just fantastic. I think the indie dyers who do them work so hard and they are always so stunning, and I love seeing people sharing them. However, as I say, they work so hard to create those advent calendars, and that makes the calendars quite expensive, which I do not dispute because I have some idea of the work that goes into it, and I'm sure that the idea I have is only a fraction of what actually goes into it. So they are totally worth the money. It's just not in my budget, particularly at that time of year. So we decided to do an advent calendar swap where we would each gather 24 minis and we would give 12 to one person and 12 to the other person. And I decided to make a start on this. The first thing I did, not this weekend, but earlier, a couple of months ago, one of my lovely colleagues went to Nice and brought back some treats, and nobody wanted the tin, so I claimed it. And now, living in here is just a little stash of minis. I have got about 20 or 21 in here. I've only got to get 3 or 4 more to complete this advent calendar, and then I get to sit and wrap them all, which is always quite fun. You know, you've got them all wound up and then you just like wrap them like little sweeties, and that's really nice. I'm just trying to get ahead of the game a little bit, really. It takes a surprisingly long time to wind 24 or even 20 little minis, you know, weighing them to try and make sure they're all the same. So I thought I would get a head start on it so that they are ready to be given away in November, delivered and ready to go on December the 1st. Doing that was one of the highlights of my Christmas last year. I really loved having this little mini to open up, and you know, one was from Amy and then the next day it would be from Katie, and I was alternating. And you know, that was, last year was the year we became friends, and it was such a lovely way to finish the year. I would totally recommend you getting together with your friends and figuring out like, okay, how many are there, how many do we need, and doing your own advent calendar. If like me, buying one for yourself is a little bit out of your budget, it's a fantastic way to use up odds and ends and do something nice with your friends, so I really recommend that. Now there is one more thing that I wanted to do before going into knit and natter. I said at the beginning of this episode, this is episode 49. I am coming up quickly on episode 50. I'm not sure yet whether I will record next weekend or the weekend after. It generally just depends on how much knitting I get done, because if I don't get loads done, it's worth doing it the following week. But yeah, episode 50 is coming up apace, and I have got a couple of little updates to the podcast. I've got a brand new like credit sequence that I have been working on. I say I've been working on, I haven't. I had the idea, a lovely friend drew it out for me, and Rich has kind of pulled it together because they're both amazing people and I'm surrounded by fabulous people. But as it's the 50th episode, I wanted to make it a little bit special as well. So I am doing a giveaway. The lovely Ellie of Skein Dear Knits has recently brought out her Selbu Mitten Club 2, second Selbu Mitten Club? I think it's Selbu Mitten Club 2. I think she brought that out last month, and it is gorgeous. I am a massive fan of her Selbu Mitten Club. I got it last year. I finally completed my first pair of mittens from it, and I absolutely credit it with helping me learn colour work, helping me not be scared of colour work, and helping me produce something that I can be really proud of at the end. So I am a very, very big fan of the Selby Mitten Club. I do have number 2, and I am looking forward to making some more Selby colour work in the future. However, I do have one to give away. So I will open a thread in the Ravelry group. I will put a link to that just down below. But if you would like to enter, I will be closing the thread the day that I decide to record. So that will either be next weekend or the weekend after. So you might have a week, you might have 2, I'm not sure yet. Life, guys, life gets in the way sometimes. But what I would like you to do in that thread is just give me an idea for a top 3. I loved doing a top 3 series, which I did for Here Be Spoilers, which I haven't brought around again, but that was great fun. I did top 3, see if I can remember, books, films, TV shows and theatre shows that I'd seen. I would love to do some more top 3s, whether they be kind of media, so I can put them in Here Be Spoilers, or something else so I can put them into Knit and Natter. What would you like to see of my top 3? Put that in. I will use random number generator to select that person who's going to win, and I will make sure you get your Mitten Club. So that's it for Whipped Up. Let's move on to Knit and Natter. That was a bit of a long and rambly Whipped Up, I am very sorry. I did write copious show notes, which I very rarely do. I usually just write bullet points of things not to forget. But today I was a little bit more focused, so goodness knows what this would have looked like if I hadn't been. So please do get involved in the giveaway. Go and take a look at the Ravelry group for the thread, and as I say, I will link that below. And I wish you all the best of luck. Today on Knit and Natter, I wanted to talk about kind of general anxiety. I have talked about this before, and as I said before, I am not somebody who suffers from anxiety. The anxiety I feel is very much kind of the everyday, things get on top of me kind of anxiety. Funnily enough, I was planning to talk about this for a while on the podcast, so I've been thinking about what I want to talk about over the last few days, and this felt like a very strong theme. And then I happened to go into the group and I noticed that a lovely new member called Selton had said that she would love it if I talked a bit more about my career. I mentioned recently that I no longer work for Love Knitting and I work in the charity sector, and a little bit more about work-life balance. I'm not going to talk about career today. If anyone would like to hear about that, please do let me know. I don't work in craft or knitting or anything like that anymore. I do work, as I say, in the charity sector. It's not something I've talked about a lot because I didn't know that anyone would be interested, which is fine if you're not, totally fine. But it is something that I am loving. And in the last couple of weeks in particular, I had that moment of like, wow, I love my job. I have been having a little bit of overwhelm and anxiety about work-life balance at the moment. There seems to be so much to do because of the long days, because of the beautiful weather, that I almost feel like there aren't enough hours in the day. And some of my current kind of anxiety is knitting. I'm not getting as much done as I would like. I worry that I don't have enough content for the podcast. I've got some gifts that I really do need to crack on with and get finished. I've got garments that I want to work on. I've got this anxiety that I'll never become a good garment knitter if I don't spend the time working on them. So that's one kind of stress. I've also got some stress about my exercise because I did twist my ankle when I was in Cornwall, and I've had to kind of ease back into the running, and I haven't been able to kind of crack straight on with the training schedule that I was following, which is a shame. That also then clashes with my knitting worry because when I go out to the gym after work and then I come back and I shower and we have dinner and we tidy, there's often not very much time for creative pursuits after that. I worry about getting other things done. There's some writing goals that I want to achieve this year. There is bits and pieces around the house I still need to finish. We still haven't put our pictures up. So there's these little pockets of anxiety for me. I need to get a handle on it because if I'm aware of it, I should do something about it. So I'm kind of in the middle of it at the moment, so I can't tell you what will work, but I can tell you what I'm going to try because it's worked in the past. First up is getting it out on paper. Now, I think a contributor to my kind of overwhelm at the moment is due to the fact that I don't currently have a fully functioning bullet journal. My previous one finished. I set up a new one, but I haven't been able to complete that setup, so it doesn't feel finished or ready. It is ready to use, it's just this mental block I've got about it not being done. So I need to start checking in on that daily. I need to start thinking about my tasks and my to-dos and getting it out on paper. And I think what would really, really help me at the moment is to just do a brain dump and just go, these are all the things that are on my mind at the moment. I'm just going to get them out. Now that can sound scary, and it can look scary when you look at that page. However, if you then read through it, maybe take a step back, make a cup of tea, come back in a couple of hours, you'll read through it and realise that a lot of the like nagging tasks are not that big a deal. So I know that on there is going to be, you know, book my follow-up dental appointment, clear out some magazines because I've got a stack that some of them need to go to recycling. Things like that, they're so minor, but because there's so much to do, I haven't got around to doing those yet. Create this nagging task list, pick out 2 or 3 a day that you can just tick off. I can make an appointment in 5 minutes on the phone on my lunch break tomorrow, and then it's done. And you suddenly feel so much more in control. And that being in control, that is what helps me feel less anxious and less overwhelmed and better generally. I want to make sure that I've got a day, preferably, but at least half a day every weekend that is just for me, that is just to sit on the sofa, drink tea, watch a film and knit. Because that is what fills my batteries, that is what charges me back up again and makes me ready for the world. And what I need to do is I need to take a look at my diary, which I've been avoiding, and make sure that I have those times blocked out. Not just go, okay, that weekend looks empty, but actually put something in the diary that says, this time is taken, you can't do anything then. Because otherwise the temptation when someone says, do you want to do this, is to look at that and go, oh, well, it's empty, it'll be fine. You have to be realistic. If you need the time, you need the time. If I put it in, I can legitimately say, oh, I'm sorry, I've got plans. Thirdly, I need to start using my time better. When I get overwhelmed, I freeze. So I have not really been taking time out at work on my lunch break to do any knitting until the last couple of days, and that really helps. It helps me get stuff done. So I really want to use my time better and more efficiently. I get a lot of reading done on the train, but I haven't been recently because I've felt that kind of frozen rabbit in headlights feeling. So I'm downloading some books that I'm going to read. I've got my Kindle app on my phone, so I don't, if my Kindle's flat or I forget to pack it, I've always got something. Being productive feels good for me. It makes me feel really good about myself. I love looking at a week where I've got lots done. That's just what works for me. So yeah, that's just a little bit about how I'm feeling a little bit anxious at the moment, a little bit overwhelmed, and how I plan to deal with it. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I've been here before where I've let things get on top of me and it's just a case of taking a step back and figuring out a way through. It's no big deal, really. It just feels like a big deal when you're in it. And it's just about taking that time to get out of it. If you do want to hear a little bit about what I'm doing now work-wise, let me know, that'd be great. I'm more than happy to share. But until then, I will see you very soon. Don't forget to enter the giveaway to win the Selby Mitten Club 2 from the lovely Ellie of Skeyndir. And I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care, bye.